So if we want to speak the language, we can use English and Russian. Yes, of course, Ukrainian and Russian, Ukrainian preferable, but Russian is okay. But simultaneous translation will be on. And of course, it's for conveniency of our foreign partners and from partners of incubator and those who would like to improve their English for further communication with their partners from other countries participating in this project. So, friends, 2 minutes and we will start.
Так, отже, друзі, не будемо гаяти час. Давайте стартувати.
So, friends, not to lose our time, and those who are connected already, please switch on your video cameras to see each other. Yes, we work with you online, but we would like to see your faces. Please smile, and it's okay. It's very nice. Thanks a lot, and yes, let's start. We have the workshop today, and we will have a very powerful team who will be working with us, Pixalated reality team, the organization who creates the tools for digitalization, storage, and preservation of digital tools for objects of cultural inheritance. So we will speak with them how they create these tools, how they use them. We will have the architect and video artist with he is production head, operational director, and expert of an informal education. Please, friends, the floor is yours. Super, very fine term for this introduction, and I would like to announce that today, before this wonderful format of a lecture, to invite our participants who will be capable to speak about our mission, vision, previous project, and we will ask them to speak to us, our colleagues. They will be joining us soon. They are in Venice now, and they joined us for several years, and it will be interesting for the people who are starting, and it will be interesting for them to see how they can do what they can do during the first couple of years of the activities. Now I will switch on the presentation. Pixelated related or realities digitalizer. I will speak in general about our organization, and so we work since 2015, and we have in our team Alik, Kadum among the co-founders. He is an architect and painter. I am more in illustrative communicative sphere. but focused on digital technologies. And in fact, our team it grew by 3 people a couple of years ago. So Andrei Tkalic, a photograph, more than 20 years of experience in the photography, and maybe he will speak about himself. Alexei Voronko and Vera Lutenko, they are sculptors who graduated from Odessa University and then joined 3D to increase their skills of sculptures. They are not in Verona. So, what is our mission? So our organization, we put a goal for us, a name for us to preserve artistic heritage with digital technology. We are specialized in 3D scanning, and scanning with a normal photo camera. And in fact, we are specialized in the models which we scan, and we use them for visual implementations or for digital production. So visual can be for web, for plays, for games, or video computer graphics. And if we speak about digital production, they could be engineering models for printing, forms, and so also we work with printing machines if it can be transformed into printing. Also, we scanned about 70 buildings from different countries of the world, and more than 170 small objects, artifacts from museums, from exhibitions. Last year, also, we started to scan cities, but unfortunately, we cannot continue this now. And we cooperated or worked in expeditions in different countries in Europe. And even we had a moment when one of the co-founders was shooting for 2 years in India as an artistic resident. So why we created this visualization? Because we are from Odessa, and in Odessa there is a bigger problem with artifacts. Because the restoration of cultural inheritance does not happen, and the buildings should be restored 50 years afterwards. But we have so we have a lot of material. We have materials in Odessa which need restoration every 15 or 20 years because they are built.
Просто падають будівлі, руйнуються, буває, згорають, тобто навіть до війни.
And so build with materials which are not bricks but limestones and lots of materials. Buildings are burnt. Last year we found that more than 10 buildings were destroyed naturally. So you see the photo of a building. There was a problem when a developer wanted to destroy a historical inheritance building. So we managed to scan it, and it was the first work of material in the southern of Ukraine. It was building the first printing house in the south of Ukraine, and so lots of history related to this building, and so it was this problem. And in fact, and in general, the buildings which are not in the register of cultural inheritance, they are not protected by nothing, and they can be rebuilt, destroyed, and we, with digital preservation, we wanted to receive a kind of a vision what how the city looked like because before it started to be destroyed. And what we wanted to get by such a scanning, in fact, with detailed measuring, with spotting and pinning and finding the materials, we can create a world restoration project. Because in Ukraine there was a legal initiative which started, which envisaged to have all the buildings built in after 2025 to be with visual drawing, and that's how the restoration looks like in Odessa. Maybe lots of you know the situation. It's a roof of the house, and besides the original materials were not used in such restoration, but even the materials were reduced, and so we see the face which fell down 1 year after the restoration, and so in general these data can be widely used, and we promote the idea that during the activity of our organization we started the cases about using in different ways to show what we do with the scans, because these scans can be used as a platform, a whole platform for development of inheritance. So also the monitor of damages, a very interesting sphere. We scan 1 year or another year, and we see how, for example, a crack became wider, or it remained stable. So also it could be for tourist marketing or for visualization of original landscapes. Later with architectural projects. Also, we worked with digital twins when you use a model which is connected with interactive functional, and you can look at the area and to make a presentation with your partners, for example, for a festival, and you will understand if you can run a festival. Also, models can be used for souvenirs, for jewelries, for art objects, and in fact, the scans can be used as a basis or model to create drawings. This is an example from internet, but very popular. If you take the sculpture from the bottom, the sculpture, you can transform it into building information model, and you will understand how you can measure with a scan the whole building. And I would like my colleague to join and to tell the listeners about the technologies and how the models can be used. So I was listening, and maybe she spoke about everything almost. Maybe you have some questions. We don't want to make it as a lecture. Maybe you have some questions about digital production or scaling. Do you have questions just in general?
Федір, здається, все ж таки хотілося б більше.
Please, Fedir, we would like to have more details about technology and nuances about other types of implementation and application. So I just we would be happy to listen to you more. So the texture, a very interesting slide.
Останній, якби перед портфоліо слайд вже про скетчфак. Це, власне, якщо
The last slide before the sketch fab. For example, if it is required for tourism or for interactive model, this is the model which was created in the project where we created a project, a building for the city of Kropivnitsky. We created a model made of drones. So let's go to models. This is a model, a model of a fortress in Ankerman. So we created it before the war, and we had to establish it, put it in front of the fortress. So it was 3 meters big, quite a big model. So it was a prototype. So we created it with a polymeric bronze. You see a man on the right. You see a yellow piece. So this is a scan. Then this scan was used for modeling. So we used the scans as bases, and we could recreate very precisely these models. And then we used a specific printer with a polymeric resin, which gives very precise details, and built with polymeric bronze. And all these pieces were joined with each other with polymeric bronze. So sometimes we can build a city in a certain scale, and then these historical buildings would be just a landmark, so pointers inside the landscape. This is a synagogue in a city in Belgrade. So now it is in a distracted state. So we received lots of photos, some drawings, and we created a model of how this synagogue was looking like when it was used as a synagogue. So the idea was so we can make these buildings a bit bigger inside the symbolic landscape. So these are the boxes which are not ideal houses, but some structures with roofs. This is the fortress. So it is not a real model because lots of questions was about how it was looking in reality. So the scientists wanted us to make it look like this, and we made lots of modifications of these models, and it was not the final model. Also, it was made with the polymeric bronze, and the experience was interesting for us. I would like to add a bit that the main idea of creation of models was to show the potential for creation of concept. So you take a building which was real, you rate it with what was missing, and you recreate it with the modern material. So this is the scan, how it looks like. So these are the screenshots for our clients. This is the structure. So you see, it was a piece of the whole picture. And now it looks like the model created with the scan. This is the Greek church. So you see the cupola, the crosses. So it is used more for 3D printing. When you print something, that depends on your technology, because there are 3D printers which put these melted materials. They are not so very precise in details like resin printing, but to make a model and adopted to a certain technology of printing, we should take it into account. Some objects we need we make small details of decorations more detailed, and some things during production we make the print, then we needed to cover it with resin, put into a form, take out the print, and pour inside some, for example, silicone or polymeric material, and in the process, the form of the mold is used, is worn out. So small details with small decorations, they can bring, or maybe sometimes they cannot be filled, because these things they are poured inside without any vacuum. Just you pour inside, and it is nice to use for this such vibration tables to feel them in maximum. And you can see this building on the right, the same church. You see the pores of the air. So you should fix it with some bronze things which you buy more. So it's kind of a process which you use when you use the bronze. You meld a seam, and you should work out. But from engineering point of view, you should think always what you want to get. Some things should be already introduced in the design. And I would like to speak about production, what we are getting during our stay in Venetia. So we had also a project in Odessa and partially in Kharkiv, and the idea was to gather the architects, painters, and sculptors, those other people with the creative industries, in some residence where they can create a project with 3D technologies. Also in Odessa, we created a physical exposition where we taught people to scan, to create models, and to create something new for their artistic activity. For example, this Lacan and Sons, in the original sculpture, there were snakes, because he was taken by the snakes. But our sculpture propose an idea that they are not taken by snakes, but internet cables. So we exchanged the snakes with cables. So this is the result on the right, and we painted it with acrylic paint in this green way. And then there was a very ambitious project with the head. And so also it is a bit different from the original statue with open eyes. In the original here, they should be closed, and so the model was transformed. So you see that it was not printed in one piece, but in 20 small pieces and glued. So our printing zone was only a small printer, and we composed the whole figure with smaller pieces. For us, it was a very ambitious project for us. So there were 15 people and whom we had to teach how to scan, how to visualize. So we had a sculptor, an architect. So we had these people and 3 months to do all, and we had to finish deadlines. It was a huge experience for us, but we loved these residents and just decided to make the project a bit more regular and to make it scale. However, we could not continue. Also, 3D. So it's a famous singer Boytsov, and a cup of coffee. So he's a big flew on the back and a very impressive, very sharp on the front of the face. So this is a copy of the statue monument on Deribasovskaya Street, and the hand was imagined by a very famous barista, as if he gives him a cup of coffee. So, if I don't tell you what it is, but on the back it is not very. The features are not very precise, but the front of the face is very precise. If I didn't tell you, you would not imagine it. But these were ideas of our residents with very different approaches. Also, Voronko, he decided to make a small scan of a typical well. So let me give you the floor. So I would like to make a small scan of a well, as small as a cup. So I said no, Alexei. Let's do it one to one scale. So, but if we do it in foamed polyurethane, but then I say just make it huge if it's this material. So I could not imagine at the beginning that there will be a huge well at the exposition, but our sculptor creator supported us, and then we started to invest the money in this production. So we had some issues, but I said it will be worth doing it. We will create a huge well, and we will paint it. So maybe Alexei, you will be capable to talk to us about this. please speak. Tell us about the mirror. So it was so difficult to find such mirror. Had to get it from special people, and the symbolic point was it was a small Odessa yard, and the whole culture of Odessa was small yards with the local wells, and also so the point was that you could look at this well from the second floor and just close to it. So when you look inside, you see the skies, the sun also, and this well was crystallized with foamed polyurethane. We bought a lot of this polyurethane, which was used for sandwich panels for roofs, and we. So So we asked for paint from a guy who had a shop with these paints, and then there was his friend, and you see the girl for painted on the well. She is one of the residents. She painted herself. So this is the well became an object which became an attraction point of the interior. So we put it into the middle, and people were coming inside, and they were astonished. What is it? What is it? How it is attracts? How it attracts attention? So a very perfect scene when you agreed at the beginning, and then you see the huge headache it became, but it was worth it finally. So it's a nest. It's about that you can teach a person not to make scans and modeling, but how to build it with bronze, polymeric bronze. So this is a symbol of Odessa, of savage beach, or maybe these are the this is the idea. You have it in your shores as well. So the idea was the swallows they were making their nest in the shore. So this was the idea that the people, when they came to Odessa, they saw the swallows in such nests, but we didn't have money for too much printing. We just used these this space, not 3 by 3 meters, but just we decided to make it a single one. So this is the polymeric bronze and these are the birds which are of titanium powder. We didn't use scanning here. So he did it himself. So he used a, a, a lime. He was a sculptor, but he never used a lime. He did it also with his hands. Technologically, how is it done? It's our know-how in a sense, because we did it without any mold. So we machined it in polyurethane, and when you pour inside, you don't need to make a model, then to make a mold and then to pour. We did it with polyurethane. Also, him when he poured it inside, and he took a risk, and he wanted to do it faster, and instead of some frames or just gluing them for several days, they decided to use some isolation foam as a filler, and it tore this mold in all senses, and it swallowed a lot, but these damaging were not so big. And this model was presented as at an exposition, so it was one of the experiences. So when you wanted to make the exposition, you should do it as it should be. So you can take the risk, but you take care that you don't break your mold. So myself, as a project manager, I should put some time for finishing of the project or products. So we can estimate that we need so much time to create, and we will finish by a certain moment, and then finally we see that we don't have enough time. So if we have a deadline, we should put a stress on ourselves, our own people. So let me make them faster. Some more works over what was discussed. Small souvenirs. So we have 1 hour more. Maybe. Hello, Losha, you want to add something? So we came very fast to you. So you have models, and you can cut them automatically with lots of resources, and every piece is cutting a model into slices on with laser cutting. So we had a machine in Odessa. When it was launched, we made an experiment what you can do in Odessa, and this is what we did. And very fluently we come to what is going on now. and
Ми
and in fact,
війни мали
before the war,
якийсь великий офіс
we had quite a big office in the Odessa near the military headquarters. We had a 3D laboratory, a printing workshop. We had a resin printer, a laser cutting machine,
штуки для лиття.
and there were things for molding and a vacuum scene for bubbles. So there was a laboratory and a studio with a photo camera and a drone. We had lots of scenes and
Ну, тобто, незважаючи на те, що вона дуже широкий спектр якби застосування, основний якби основну силу і компетенцію, яку ми розвивали в собі в організації
so we could be involved in different ways, but what we involved the most in our organization, so it was a multi-direction where you have lots of specialists who are specialists in the very narrow field, for example, let's say about scanning, and now we cancelled this office. We put the equipment into the storage, and now we are in Italy, and a part of the team stayed in Odessa. Besides, somebody went to Moldova, and we understood that we don't have the possibility even to scan because in Odessa it was forbidden to make photos. First of all, to take pictures of buildings, and also the SBU, they were looking for diversive military. So if you take pictures, it is not too correct. So we had to understand what we can do, what is possible or not, and actually we understood that the first variant that we can go to scan on locations in the buildings where we are inside. So, and there was a building which had to be restored this year, and they didn't have a drawing of this building. So it, it was a museum building, and to avoid damages, it was scanned very precisely. And the second part of this issue is looking like this: who can take pictures outside, and the most people should be accredited in Ministry of the Defense, and we started to work in common with our colleagues from Kharkiv, and there were people who were writing about culture industry, about artists, about technologies, about theaters, and now they are military journalists, conflict reporters, and the media tell people what is going on in Kharkiv region, and also and they can scan the buildings in Kharkiv and in region which they meet in such a new reality. So we understood that this could be a shift from historical inheritage to the new inheritage. The point is that in 2015 so there were those people, I don't know how to call them, they were standing and the border, and we with Dmitry there was no list of objects, but we were working because we were speaking that if something hits the building, how would you imagine how this was looking? So we gathered together and we made a drone with a rod with bamboo rods because Dima is an Indian guy. He can fast imagine how to do something, and he had this system of drone control, but he didn't have a drone, so we connected it to the camera, and it went there, and we had an objective. We didn't have a focus, so I looked into the camera and he saw what he was looking, what he was taking a picture of, but the quality he could not understand, and we didn't have clickers, and we had to take shots every 10 seconds, and we were keeping this master, and he was looking what is going on, and I was looking at the screen saying, so go there on there, because we didn't calculate the depth of resolution. So we took it from the drone. It was a quite interesting idea. So maybe we sometimes don't not have something, but we have a big wish to do. So when we wanted to do something, we just try to imagine together what we can do. This is what we can think about. I look at this scan now. What I feel, I didn't take a single picture, but it was done by our colleagues Andrei and Losha, and I like it very much because they can do these things without a drone, with very little time. So we invite just Andrei, maybe you can switch the presentation.
Давай я буду тебе просити, щоб ти переключила.
Please, can you switch to presentation? So I give the floor to my colleague. Hello, I am Andrei. I am professional photographer. I take photos for more than 10, 15 years. So I was studying in Kiev and TV universities. Then I was in journalism, and then I went to professional photography for studios for TV and so on. And I know Fedir for more than 20 years already. And when the guys started as a project, so I was taking part in some projects when I was in the city, because I was living in Kiev and then Lviv. I was scanning some objects, but some 2 years ago I went to Odessa, and I was accepted by the team. And in principle, I improved my skills for scanning, for processing, and all processes which should be involved. So, and then since the beginning of war, our project started for the art museum with comprehensive scanning outside and inside. So this is the exterior, and we were working for this project since end of April to beginning of September. So in fact, it should be a detailed model. Could you show us the photo? So we scanned all details of the interior, all these all these reliefs, all these pieces should be inside this scan. How many thousands you have of photos in this hall, in this room? About 5,000 photos. So because the floor is very specific of several types of wood, very fancy. So, and so this is the model of the building, which dates back to 18th or 19th century. And these are the scans of the reliefs with the cherubs and so on. So this is a so-called point cloud. The first floor of the museum composed together. Every room was worked over very in detail, and any restoration can be done in lots of details. All small movements can be replaced. Some pictures also were on the scan because we could not avoid it. And now I work on the second floor, and all this will be connected to the exterior scan, and then you will be capable to make a tour or whatever, something. And then at the beginning of the war, we had a project. We scanned the monuments, the statues, some outstanding monuments in Odessa. This is a she line with small lines, and monument to Shevchenko. So I was using my car, and then I was brought higher with lead. It was funny because there were sirens of air alert, and I was in this. I was in this platform. And the driver didn't run away. No, he didn't run away because it was a seasoned driver. But when we scanned the museum, it was on Sunday, also weekends, and there was a missile in port, and in one rooms of the museum there is a glass roof, and this roof started to fall down. So we scanned outside these architectural monuments during the air alerts, and you see this is the point of no pass zones, and we had military around us, and we had a very specific hour to scan, and we had to fit into these time windows, and we made scans in fast procedure during the allowed time. And in fact, all this work was achieved thanks to volunteers and art museum in Odessa. So they were covering the monuments with bags of sand, and before covering, they asked us to scan. So we scanned the Duke monument with bags. Also, we scanned some monuments which are now disputed whether to destroy them or not. And Losha, you would like to speak about the crosses. After the crosses, there are some shots. There is something about the school. We so these are the photos of our partners from Kharkiv. School 33 destroyed in Kharkiv. I can tell you more in detail. According to legend, so it was difficult to restore the events, but when the Russians were trying to enter the center of Kharkiv, and they were pushed back, and some part of diverse group wanted to hide themselves inside. It was a very perfect college, but they were hiding, but the munition storage went on air, and they destroyed the school. So our partners took photos of this school, and when I was in Odessa, I collected this school altogether. So we had to join some details. This is the front view and the view from drone. We had to have a drone to shoot from the top and to make a geo reference to know how this object is placed according to geographic points. And Alexei could tell us about the Cossack crosses as well. A small activity about this during some pauses between the bigger projects. So it was decided to go for crosses, so to say. This is a culture element which we
Дуже інтересний такий хрест, набір таких символів.
which we pay attention now to. And when these structures were hidden from shelling, so the guys who are activists and researchers, they made some researches on cemeteries which were devoted to Cossack villages inside Odessa. So this is some ideological idea. So these crosses are used just to prove that before the Hedge Bay was taken by Russians from Turkish, there were Ukrainian Cossacks who lived inside and they cooperated with Turks. So in any way, such things can disappear, but they are very basic for the history, and it's very important, especially in our time. And so we are very big fans of historic heritage, but we are not historians. And we do not develop this field in our team. We do not have a historian, and we have a cooperation with our partners who do not work in visual arts or production, and they are involved in history. And for them, these objects are very important to be blocked. So it's very important to take the shots and then decipher them, some inscriptions or else. So I will come back maybe to some positive side. So and so this is a program part of our presentation, but we would like to tell you how this story was developed now. So we received the data of these objects. We understood that it should be a comprehensive project of military documentals. So we had an idea of a metaphoric museum. So after the victory, there will be an interactive museum where we can give the materials and they will play the videos on all kinds of screens. So they could be even in web format. But the main idea is that when we saw first time this comparative photos when we saw the opera house during the Second World War with tank protective hedgehogs, and we saw the picture of this year February protective hedgehogs. We understood that we needed to take pictures for our children, for our young people who will be coming. We understood that they will not use 2D as much as we are accustomed to. They are used to use information through three-dimensional format. That is why we work with journalists in different cities of Ukraine where there are military actions or were military actions. Any places which are considered as a military zone places. So we work to collect materials in which format. For example, a building which was hit by a shell. Some small locations connected to historical events in this place, or maybe abandoned cars, or maybe protected monuments. And in fact, the idea is to bring this temporary character of the war to show this terrific side, so that to show these materials in and promote them in Europe, because if we speak about virtual reality, we can imagine, and we made some tests, so we can take a Duke with sandbags and we put it in the middle of square in Berlin. So it could be quite of a nonsense for Europe, where such things cannot happen. The topic is very interesting. We will show you some models. So Sketchfacts is a free platform for 3D models, which allows to make some annotations, some comments if you have a updated application. So you see the car with Ukrainian plates, but it was taken in Kharkiv, close to center, and it was staying there since the beginning of March. Since then, there were some patriotic graffitis which appeared on that. And some time ago, it was taken away because in Kharkiv, people are very active to clean the city, to take all the debris outside the city. And on one side, on one hand, it's kind of sorrow, and also it's kind of hope. These are the manifestations of the values which the sculptures can show to the world, to show what is going on, bombing and shelling, and we put these bags on our heritage because also Shevchenko didn't want to keep them on himself. He hid them off. But for an artist, this monument is not more a monument to a historic person who is depicted on it, but it becomes a monument to the Ukrainian people who protect their freedom at any possibility. And so we look for an operator or cameraman. So if anybody is interested after this webinar, we would like to run several trainings and all these models which were done in Kharkiv by a person who did not know even how to use properly a camera. He never touched it before the war. Especially it was his first attempt. I explained to him everything by phone and by photos from Telegram, and I explained to him, Serежа, take this and that, and so again, through the organizers, you can find us, and I will write to you our mail if you are interested. Can please write. And I would like to switch on the video. So you can explain to us or tell us how you like this lecture today, because we are almost finished. So we do not plan to finish because we have several questions in chat. Let's come back to them because we have some block of questions. For example, how many square meters we need for a studio? So there is a practical interest. So you see the incubator of creative centers. We would like to think about the possibility to transform the talent into the business, and maybe here I would like to tell us about the business model which can be behind such center, whether it is profitable Please tell us from this side about your laboratory, who does what, but about the questions in the chat. Let's start about the polymeric bronze and so on. So it's a very good question, the polymeric bronze. This polymeric bronze, it's a polymeric which has bronze inside. So it's a bronze powder which is injected into this polymeric substance like a resin, epoxidic resin, any kind of epoxidic substance. So there is a layer of such a substance. So 90% of this is a powder. In this case, it is bronze powder, which you can buy in a shop. You add to this and you put into the mold. So this is the basic of the thing.
Ми не тільки з такими, які змішуються з металом. До речі, є
So we don't work only with something which is mixed with metals. There are people who create figures of very famous characters, and they also pour inside. So the bronze is just kind of a filler, and when we make this layer 4-5 millimeters of bronze, then there is a rigid layer, fortifying layer with a grid, and it makes just kind of a crust. When we worked on this with such a technology, so the base is trapezoidal. We made them of concrete to make them more solid. So we have them inside the concrete. So these products with the polymeric bronze, can they stay outdoors? When you had this perfect information about 3D models for blind people, which can be put near the historical monuments, can it stand outside, stand all weather conditions, or just it's only for indoor use? It's a very good question. Thank you for this question. Lots of people spoke about this when we created calculations. So what is it? So it is envisaged to stay outside because it is a resin with metal powder, and this resin can stay for 50 years. So nobody measured if it can stay for 100 years, 200 years, but in the business context, even social business, it was kind of there was a public budget in Odessa. and there was an idea that the real things made of bronze they will cost 20,000-30,000 US dollars, and the material will be very valuable. Saying nothing about scanning all these researches with blind people, because there were researches about how people can approach. So we had to they had to develop a size of the model so that the people could touch them, but and make a visualization also better, not so small and not so big, very huge. This is an engineering terrible task. That could make our hair become gray
І до чого дійшло?
before we finish with such models. So we came to the idea when the project started, and Svetlana, she won the project, and there was the budget of about 2 million hryvnias, and it was thought at about 12 objects to make them out of bronze. And when we calculated, I was not in this project. There was another sculptor who wanted to participate in the project with this girl. And at a certain moment, this project started to fade. And everyone thought that there is an architect who makes 3D, and I was working with our local sculptor who already created some sculptures inside Odessa, some fountains, which we developed with a certain method. I could tell you later a bit. And I was invited to this project. They said, Fedir, come and help. Can we make 11 objects for 2 million hryvnias in 3 months? Then I came to Kiev, to Vishneva, and I was speaking with people who were working with bronze. They said we don't want to pour these models because it was terrible for Lviv or something. They calculated it was about 65 or 80 euro of this pouring, but it should be gathered and a frame should be done, should be reinforced because it will fall apart, and they cannot pour it in a real dimension because the chamber does not allow. So it can be done in the pieces, in the plates, and then we remembered that we have a sculptor who who makes these things with polymeric bronze. So we knew that he is doing this. So we asked him, Arkady, can you do this? No, he said, no, it is impossible. But about this budget, there was some mathematics, and that polymeric bronze was showing that it is possible, and I was doing some research work, how can it be done with what budget? And then the project was postponed. It was given one more year for more participants, and with this technology, it was possible to implement this project because they could not calculate the budget. They could not change a lot of things in this project, but we wanted very much that the winners appeared in Odessa. So did they appeared in Odessa? Yes, 6 objects were appeared: the mayor house, the opera house, also very big, 120 centimeters by 100. So it was done in polymeric bronze. We did scanning with the laser. And as for business, in this project, it was not much for us because drawing works were not so big for us because we were working mainly on concept and scanning and production. The main project was pouring and assembling, but this is the budget for public production. But 3D is the technology for scanning and modeling is the business behind. Do you understand that we are not a firm or a company? We are just about a public organization. We are a R&D company. In 2015 or 16, there was a four-post film, and they had to make a model for shooting of a four-post which they wanted to build, and they had a model for shooting. And at that moment, there were no producers, manufacturers who could produce such model, and they found us, and we did it. Or, for example, as a business, yes, but we are not in Hollywood or Bollywood. We don't have a request on everyday basis just to go and scan something for the cinema studio. If I understand, you don't have enough constant portfolio to work permanently and to fill the budget and keep the team with these projects. So there is a concept, but the market is not developed. Yes, the market is not developed, and unfortunately, we don't know clearly what will be happening. And for us, the market is the scanning of objects for restoration works, and our goal was to make models to develop them with our production and reducing cost of such production. we do this faster and less expensive and with bigger quality. Than let's say, so to say, Italian sculptors. And our story with this organization was to create a kind of a database for models which can be materialized as a business model which can be put into this database for restoration works and in this way people can save time, labor, and do their work better. I want to comment from the point of view of digital drawing. As I was saying, before the war, the Minister of Infrastructure created a framework program that the drawings of buildings will be transferred from paper to digital, and the test project will be created in within the bigger construction project and big restoration project. And under the bigger restoration, we were working for Odessa, part of the project, and after several years of bigger restoration and the bigger construction program should be implemented into the whole Ukrainian building programs. But in Ukraine there were no so many companies who scan. When people look for scanners, they can come from five different sources. So the people can be contractors, some contractors, and subcontractors of subcontractors. And they come to us when you do something better than others. So your customer wants to contact you, or maybe some 5 companies want to ask you about the same project, the same things, and on this request you can understand who is some contractor of whom.
Це специфіка вашого такого поки що нішевого сервісу.
This is the specifics of your niche service as for the moment. But why I tell you this? So it can be in architecture for computer development, but we have a science which is called photogrammetry for geodesics. So they do also this 3D modeling, and for the customer it is not always the same if it would be a bad photogrammetry or good quality photogrammetry. It's one point, but another point, if you need an official paper, for example, somebody called Oleg is doing with his geodesics, but we passed through such horrors if you want to do something for construction, it's you need geodesics, but for movie production, you cannot use a geodesic because they are incapable to create such materials. So, for example, the producer wants some specifics for their products, and we as architects, we understand them, their requests, and this our niche. We do their architecture. We preserve the heritage. We do some digital scenes and apply the scenes. Then we produce the models or sculptures. Some sculptures which are already in Odessa, they were made with a very small scan, and they were made bigger. So this is the printing which made the bronze sculptures more efficient, and the small statue or sculpture can be done of any material which the sculptor wants to use. So if you scan something, you create a model. We make small models and bigger models. Then we slice it on a laser scatter. We can make smaller pieces on printers, and the plastic is very well manufactured. We tested it for a million times. So we have a very small model. We make it on computer. Then we get small pieces, and the sculptor takes the special glue, and he knows how to attach them together, because he knows how to make the texture, and then this piece goes to production again, and then it comes as a bronze. So for me, it was terrible at the beginning. So we make this with artificial clay, a small model. Then the phone with put on the on. We make a frame, maybe 4 meters big. If it doesn't fit, it should be cut. When I was 17 years old, I went to see Reva. I met Posipaka. Yeah, you were bringing cartridges, and then you needed to change people, and you should put it into some basins to keep the frame. And Alexey Voronko and Vera Rudenko, such students, they were doing with your sketch this big frame, and then you come on the top, and you fill the openings, but then you need this clay or wax model. You should format it with cheap resin, but also such Alexey Voronko should do. However, it should be a formatorist, a specific person who learn all his life how to do it. When we take out the mold which didn't break, then you need to put the wax and this form, this mold should be brought to the manufacturing, and you should put inside a specific material which doesn't break, but you should melt it out, and then you put a bronze inside. For example, in this production, anything can happen. For example, you break your frame. So technologically, you can print your model, pouring. Technology becomes easier. You can improve it better, make some more changes, and much more cheaper, a lot less of management. You can change. You should change people. You should weld a frame. If you make a sculpture of 3 meters, it will be hundreds of kilos of material. So I will take you away a bit from your monumentalism architecture. Please let's come back to our participants. We don't have enough too much time left. Let's try to ask the question: how many square meters you need to create a mini studio? Dear participants, colleagues, please switch on your camera. You can raise your hand and you can talk live, because we have some questions more. So what are the requirements for 3D studio? Requirements are very simple. The bigger it is, the better. Can be a garage, can be some room. That depends. So if you want to put a 3D printer, our CD printer, so it was inside closes cupboard, because it had enough place inside. So you can have a small table with a small notebook, 13 inches big, or you can have a huge room with a bigger table, and you will work on this table. So the classic model of garage startup will work. So it can work, classic model, maybe for some drawing developers. So many people think that so I will buy a 3D printer and will make some service. The whole model will not work, because the printer is a rapid prototype production tool. As a mass or serious production, they will not be a very good element. Maybe in short, as a minimum, you should for 2-3 square meters, where it will be placed with a working zone for the person with the table. There should be some cardboards and printers, and you should count that one will be involved, you will have a new order. You will put it there, and these printers broke down, and you should know that you should have place for this, and if you look at the business with some services for some people, you should think about some fleet of such machines, such printers, 3, 5, up to 20 machines. And competition is very big. Lots of people like to print, and also, and the ventilation is a must have. If you want to use several machines, you should develop a ventilation system, or just air evacuation, because these polymers, they are toxic, even low toxicity. They are aggressive if you work with them constantly, and I do not stand resin. So I worked a lot with such things, and contacted resins lots of times. Sometimes several times. Printers spit on me with this resin, and I then cannot stand the smell. Some questions are related to the topic, which is interesting and popular. If you have a 3D printer, so it is it's very useful in engineering project or architecture company, but there is a question about the business of 3D printing. What can be the models? Can there be some trainings to know how to work with 3D printers, and how is it profitable for new artists? Then can I contact you about 3D printers? So I think it's about a consultation, which can be the models and the manufacturers. As for the training, we cannot train people, unfortunately, because our studio is closed. We could train people in Odessa. It was normal, but now it is impossible as for profitability for starting artists. So as for some cutting, of course, if you wanted to have a printer to save on your costs, so small printers can print very small things for whoever, but the bigger companies, they have their own printers, or they order models in China. So we have a friend who works with a foreign sculptor. Can we ask him so he can, if he's here with us? So you saw him, so we were dreaming about him, and can he consult on this? Yes, we worked with artists from other countries. I am working with a sculptor from Berlin, who has a huge base of scanned 3D models, sculptures, ancient and not only. So this is, first of all, this project is very interesting because we wanted to create the same base, but more about architecture and decorations for production in future and kind of this. But my work now is not related to scanning, but more to production and processing of these scans, adding some effects. I can send you later, even right now. Just 1 second. I am looking for a link. But 1 month ago or two, we had to scan ancient sculptures. Can you show us the screen? Unfortunately, it will be difficult because it is very chaotic. I have a million windows. So please tell us maybe some precise questions. Precise question: did you work with artists? And we work with artists. How do you look for clients? Many ways to do. For example, I was looking through freelance platforms and portfolios. Lots of opportunities to find. Also, there is a competition, and it was not so fashionable to work with Ukrainians. And today it is very fashionable, and I think that now there are lots of opportunities for Ukrainian artists to work with other people from abroad. That's what I hear, that's what people tell me, and this is what people are thinking about. So, Alik, and this is what our project is about, to give our artists additional competencies to find partners in Europe. So it so happened that we had a vision to do it in 2017 when we started to think about this project. But you see that the war gave this this outstanding character to Ukrainians, and so people want to work with us, and we want to work with people. So our time is coming up, and for our honorable guest from Pixalated Reality was information about their project, what they do for their victory. And please, we have a question. What is the request to the photographers which you were speaking about? Maybe this is about the project which was shown today, and maybe some colleagues would be interested today. So please, what are the requests? So at least one camera you should have one digit to push the button and your desire, and at least one computer. No, not at all. Computer is not required. Just to have one digit. But in the chat we sent a link to this space when we speak more about the requests. So we took a colleague from Kharkov. He was a chief and editor. He knows how to edit, but he had a camera. Of course, it does mean that we will not work with this data too thoroughly. But if a person wants, we can work with him or her. From my point of view, if it could be volunteer work or not, mm, so it could be a hired work with hours of a photographer. So it would be interesting for those who would like to use this, but why we were looking for journalists at the beginning? Because information is better to, it's much more faster to get from journalists, but in Mykolaiv now we don't have contacts at all, so it would be nice to have some cameramen as well. From my side, I would like to comment in general, where is the business, how to do this? We told you about the whole layer of this technology use, but what is important, the market conditions and resources and capital and labor. It is they are changed. For example, the journalist and the cameraman, they were expensive before, and lots of journalists were hired now. So if you need some people for your tasks, look, they are on the market a lot. It's difficult to find the people with drone operators before they went to the war. All now, but after the war, there will be lots of such specialists, and they will be very useful for us. And in principle, the same will be for the 3D printing, as Fedir was saying. 3D is a target product, but if you invent something and you want to understand how to change, for example, a case or some forms to make something and to see if how it is in any field, maybe even in medicine. Maybe it is necessary for artists, or you will find through international platforms. You will find your customers, but you should understand how you will create your principal competence. Well, dear friends, dear participants, the last question, if you have it, and the chat is open, you can open your camera and raise your hand. At the end, so we have. Konstantin, you raised your hand. Just I raised my hand. Just it was nice to meet you. I am just playing with 3D 3D graphics, and I know Michael, and we didn't see each other for a long time. As with pleasure, I would meet you, maybe virtually, or maybe we would do something together. Please write. You have addresses even in the chat, and please keep the communication. So friends, let's finish, and I'm sure that these 2 hours, even a bit more, traditional workshop format about the youth and the technological issues, we all together, thanks to openness and with the whole team of Pixalated Reality, Fedir and Yana and Alik and Andrei and Alexei, even we covered so many issues, and the business ones and the professional issues and possibilities for 3D technology use, and we spoke about the business models also. And friends, I thank you for today's very useful and interesting meeting. Let's stay in touch. You saw the announcement about the gains with in Ukrainian Victory Museum, and for me, as for the concept author of public budget in Mykolaiv, it was about the models of outstanding monuments in Mykolaiv. We spoke about it, but we didn't receive the answer. We understood the bronze, it's very expensive, but we didn't know about you. So when we come back and in Mykolaiv, there will be very interesting object, and we will preserve them. We will be interested to invite you, and will be nice to work on models of outstanding monuments in Mykolaiv. And for you, it will be one more opportunity to work and to earn. Thank you once again, dear friends. Please stay aware of our agenda and in Ukraine. And this project is run in 5 European countries, in Greece, Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Turkey. And so stay and follow the events of our partners and us. Stay with our Telegram channel, and see you again. Once again, thanks to Pixalated Reality. Greetings to Mykolaiv, and see you in Odessa and Mykolaiv. See you again, and good luck. See you again.
Recording stop.